So we're here with Randy Sullivan here at Keller Williams Frisco Stars. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I'm Derek Davis, owner of Specialty Contractors, and we're here just talking about real estate investments, family, and a lot of good stuff. Randy was telling me about his background here, and just can you kind of go through what you were telling me earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Dallas, grew up in the area, went to school mostly in the colony, just next to Frisco. Met my wife there. We've been married for 20 years, got 2 kids, 14 and 12, 1 girl, 1 boy. And I guess it was about 2007, I went to work for a local real estate training company that their clients were real estate agents, and we were, trying to train them on how to expand their marketing and find more clients. And I got licensed in 2008, hung my license with Keller Williams Frisco Stars, and I've been with them ever since, except for 1 year that I went to work for a different training company down in Austin. My license was inactive, but I've never had my license anywhere but here in Keller Williams. And full-time in 2011, I've sold a little over 450 homes. Small team. I've got 1 agent on my team, full-time transaction coordinator. And I own Dallas-realestateinvestor.com. We used to do a lot of educational seminars for the local investor community, and I'm also the proud owner of RSHST Capital, which is a kind of a new business concept for real estate, where we provide funding to homeowners so that they can tap into their equity for really anything at all, to stop foreclosure, but usually it's used to remodel a house so that it can be sold for top dollar and basically help the homeowner flip their own house and keep the profit that the investor would have made off of them. So that's kind of me.
Outstanding. You had touched on, just here, going back to your initial statement regarding Keller Williams and you being here, what value have they been providing just for you as an agent and as a broker over the years?
That's an interesting question. So Keller Williams has a lot of family values, type ideals that they promote. And I'm what I would call a bad Keller Williams agent. So I've not really drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Okay.
I've never been anywhere else because they do provide value to me, and they allow me to keep the most of my money. So Keller Williams has a corporate model where they figure they only need to make a certain amount of money off of each agent, and so they cap with their fees. So I pay Keller Williams, every agent pays Keller Williams $21,000 a year. So they take money from you until you've paid that amount, and then it resets every year.
Oh, nice.
But they do provide a lot of systems that are really valuable to real estate agents to help provide a higher level of customer service. So they now have some transaction processing software that has electronic signature software integrated into it. Okay. And that makes it very convenient for my clients. It also helps to be with a brand name. Keller Williams is headquartered in Austin, and they're the largest brokerage in Texas. And depending on what statistic, the largest in the world for residential. So, I don't like to go into a house and explain to people why I'm with Mickey Mouse Realty.
Sure.
So, but that's generally why I'm here. Brokerages like to make it sound like to agents that they're going to really help them grow their businesses. But the truth is, growth of a real estate business is 100% up to the individual. No one's going to make you successful but you.
100%. So as we were talking offline, you seem like you've really have taken that growth strategy just personally and done a lot of different things that will allow you to grow your personal brand as well as your overall business. And you touched on a couple of those things with regards to the Facebook and the groups that you have set up. Can you talk a little bit more about any of those items, how you've worked with either Facebook or grown your network of community that you have in any industry in? Sure.
So, when I worked for the real estate training companies, the first company, we kind of walked into a database. We used to just buy real estate agents' names and telephone numbers. But the owners of the company had such a track record, and they spoke enough in the realtor circuit that people knew their names. And, we were able to get people to listen to us when we'd call them randomly, just simply because, we were representing a higher level of production that they wanted to get to. Mm-hmm. The second company that I was with, it was all about strategic partnerships. And so I was responsible for negotiating contracts with Keller Williams, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, ERA, Sotheby Realty, companies like that, Exit Realty. And part of our agreement with them would be, that they would promote our products and services, and we'd give a discount to their agents. Or we would pay the corporate office a referral fee. But while I was there, none of the brands took that. They passed all the savings on to their customers. In real estate, it's been a whole lot more difficult. When you're a new agent, I used to teach new agent classes, and I would tell them, close your eyes. Imagine you have your license in your hand. What's the first thing you're going to do? Right? Because you can watch HGTV and think you're just going to show houses all day.
Right.
But you got to find a customer first. And when you find them, you got to convince them to do business with you. And then you get to service the client. So for me, it started off, I used to do open houses every Saturday and Sunday, only at bank-owned properties, because that's what was effective in that market. As that started to shift, I switched over to other methods. I had a call campaign that I did for a while to help find off-market properties for my buyers when inventory was low. Now most of my marketing efforts are focused on relationships through Facebook, which is ironic because I hate social media.
Yeah, me too. I'm not on social media from a personal standpoint, but definitely trying to get there more professionally.
Yeah, I mean, and you learn quickly, and I'm certainly not a Facebook expert, but you learn that your personal profile is where it's at. So I'm very cautious about the personal things that I post on my page, because I do have people from all walks of life on there that are either past clients or people that are industry contacts or whatever. And so if you look at my Facebook page, there's not a lot of personal stuff on there, and what little there is just meant to give you a mild glimpse into my life. Mm-hmm. You're not going to know when I went on vacation or what I had for dinner last night. But it's about relationships. I also have separate Facebook pages and groups for my other businesses. So there's a Facebook page for my real estate company, and then there's a Facebook page for the funding company. And I have a marketing company that manages my ad campaigns on those. So they'll send me a message that say, hey, we're thinking about doing ad campaign. We want it to be video based. It's going to have this objective, which apparently there's different objectives for different Facebook ads. Okay. And they'll kind of send me an outline of a script of what content they want, and I record that and send it to them, and bada bing, bada boom, it happens, and leads populate into my my email.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of I'm seeing, I follow the real estate industry and just personal branding. It seems like realtors are really trying to get into owning their own brand. And, I know in the past, just with being under a brokerage like Keller Williams, are they supporting you building your own personal brand, or are they would rather you promote Keller Williams as an umbrella?
So Keller Williams was kind of a pioneer in helping you to build your own brand. As you can imagine, a few years ago, before technology became so prevalent in the real estate industry, back when they had an actual MLS book, mm-hmm. right? And there were no one had a computer, there were no smartphones. You were extremely limited in the number of clients that you had time to service, right? But we have all this technology that takes the time out of things. And then leverage became popular in the real estate industry, meaning, an agent would have an assistant, but now an agent can hire other agents, right? And they're not a broker. They're just a team owner. They're still operating under their broker's license, but they have some sort of an agreement with the agents that are on their team. Keller Williams was a pioneer in that. They were the first ones to develop their back office software to accommodate that, right? Because now there's extra people in the transaction that are getting a piece of the commission.
Interesting.
And they developed their software to allow agents to expand their businesses and grow their own teams. And Keller Williams, had some of the largest teams in the world for a while. One of the local teams that was one of the largest teams in the world recently sold their Keller Williams team to Berkshire Hathaway, and that's how Berkshire Hathaway got started in the Dallas market.
Okay.
And so, they will allow you to build your own brand. Truth be told, though, real estate teams don't have nearly as much value, even with the same transaction volume, as they would if they were a standalone brokerage. So the individual that sold his team, the numbers that I heard that he sold the team for were shockingly low to me. I thought he was making that much per year.
Right.
So, if you're trying to build a business to sell,
right.
Probably you'd want to branch off on your own at some point, but there's definitely a lot of drawbacks to that, not the least of which is explaining to people who your brokerage is. Right?
Sure.
So,
sure.
But Keller Williams is extremely supportive of that.
And, we're here in Frisco, so this is one of the fastest growing cities, if not the fastest growing city in the country, from a commercial and a residential standpoint. What have you seen just within this market that have been unheard of, and the things that you've I'm witnessing it. I live in a neighboring town in McKinney, and we're having just as much growth as Frisco. But it just seems like there's a lot of pain points, and it's exciting. When you go to other parts of the country, they don't have near the growth. Our videographer, Blazix from Kansas, and he was telling me about just how, we probably have more growth in 6 months than they've had in 20 years.
Sure.
So it's just, there's a lot of expansion with schools. There's a lot of expansion with tax dollars. There's just a lot of things that are happening. And as these big corporations come in, Frisco has had a lot of corporations come in. There's just a lot of things that kind of happen. What is your outlook on the current condition and where we're headed?
Well, I would say that as a municipality, Frisco has done as good of a job as I've ever even heard of a municipality doing in managing growth. So people don't think about this, but if you know that you have a developer that's putting in, thousands of home lots, you're going to have a traffic problem. You're going to have a problem with overcrowding of your schools. Now, those lots are going to produce revenue dollars in a few years, but you need the roads now.
Right.
You need the schools now. And so, cities have to anticipate that. They have to do bond issues. They have to get bond issues approved. So that they can get the money that they need to build the infrastructure to be able to accommodate the growth. Frisco is amazing at that. There are a couple of nearby cities that didn't do that. Right. And so, there's areas right now where there are big, beautiful, inexpensive homes that I can't sell because everybody knows that it's going to add 45 minutes of sitting in traffic to their drive.
Yeah.
And so Frisco's done an excellent job in managing that. McKinney has also done a very good job with that. Prosper's done a very good job with that. But some of the other cities, their infrastructure has not kept up with their growth. And, in business, you always have that struggle of, do you sell it and then build it, or do you build it and then sell it, right? And if you know with certainty what the end game is going to look like, it's better to build it first and create a better service experience. But I see far too often that that's not the case.
What area do you think is up and coming that most people aren't looking at? Because you mentioned you service pretty much the whole Metroplex. What's a hot area that a lot of people aren't looking at, especially you're in the investment area? Is there a part of town or a city that you think is on the rise?
I talk about the Preston DNT growth corridor. So if you looked back in the late 50s, early 60s, and you were going to build a house in the suburbs, back then the suburbs was like Lake Highlands area, right? That was like, oh my God, you're moving to Oklahoma, right? Now we consider that downtown Dallas, right? You could build in Uptown, or you could build in, say, DeSoto. There were big, beautiful, custom-built houses on larger lots in both areas that cost the same amount of money. Now, the home that's in DeSoto, that's on that big, beautiful lot, fully remodeled might sell for $325,000, and that same house in Uptown is worth $1.2 million, right? So the reality is that if you're talking about holding residential real estate for the long term, there are better areas to buy for your personal residence. And historically, if you were to look at price per square foot in the area, it's highest, closest to the north side of downtown Dallas, around the Dallas North Tollway and Preston Road. Yep. And that the further away you get from that, the lower it gets, and it slows down the further north you go. So if you want to take advantage of the growth corridor, I would try to be somewhere around DNT or the Preston Road, at whatever price point you can afford. So right now, Frisco's the it market. Prosper got a little bit of love there for a minute. Salina got a little bit of love. But right now, resale properties aren't selling in Prosper or Salina because there's so many spec homes on the ground. The builders bought so many lots out there. So, if I were buying right now, I would be more worried about interest rate than price. Yep. And I would buy in that growth corridor, and I'd probably get to the north side of Frisco, maybe Prosper, maybe even Salina, depending on drive time. In the Fort Worth market, I really like Aledo. Yeah. Aledo has amazing schools. I just helped somebody buy a lot and build a property out there that was $450,000 on a 3-acre lot that's got views of downtown from his second floor balcony and a pond in his backyard. That house here, I don't even want to know how much that would have cost.
Right. That's
and
amazing.
So there are those little spots where there's still value, and it just it's my job to get into the client's mind and find out what's going to work best for their situation.
You have a unique insight on the whole city, where a lot of realtors kind of specialize into an area. I think that adds, just from our conversation, you bring a lot of value, just giving people from out of town a little bit of perspective on different areas. Do you get a lot of out of town relocation folks that come your way?
I've never been willing to sign the relo company's referral agreement because they take 33 to 40% of the commission, and all they do is introduce you to the client. And finding an out of town or a house can be a lot of work. So I haven't done that, but of course, with the volume of business I've done, I've gotten referrals from people that have a family or friends that are moving in town. And, the first part of the process is educating them about different areas. And the easiest way to do that is just to go on these massive day-long, trips. And, okay, we're going to see what you can get in the east. Yep. We're going to see what you can get in the, northeast. We're going to see what you can get up north. We're going to, Yeah,
because it's a different perspective for, I moved here 5 years ago from Tennessee, and I've relocated 3 times. And so, when I moved here, you're looking at schools, you're looking at what you can get for your dollar, you're looking at potential growth. There's so many different things you're looking at, and you're having to do it within probably like a 4 or 5 day window, depending on how long your company has given you to do that. So a lot of homework obviously has to be done online in researching different areas and trying to get a perspective.
Right.
So that's good stuff. With that being said, what do you do for fun? Do you do anything as a hobby?
Yeah, I'm a major American whiskey collector.
Okay.
So when I say major, I know people who their bottle count dwarfs mine. So I'm not by any means the biggest, but I might be the loudest because I, as you can tell, I don't mind talking. So I'm involved in several local private whiskey groups, and I do a lot of educational videos for them. I like to listen to audiobooks and read books, and I figured I had to do something with all that useless knowledge I was collecting. So I do a lot of educational videos about whiskey, and I do tastings at the house. I probably had 150 people over in my house in the last 6 months.
Wow.
We've done I think 4 tastings that had, or 5 tastings that had 50 people at once, right?
That's good stuff.
I'm sorry, 10 people at once. So
are they friends, or are they from the Facebook
mostly from
group?
the club? I mean, of course, I have friends over, but a lot of strangers have come over. In fact, I'm closing on a house next week with a guy that I met at one of my tastings, and of course, my wife, she's like, "Good Lord, you spend so much time doing this," and I mean, don't get me into how much time I spend hunting the bourbon. I mean, I flew to Atlanta in December for a 3-day trip just to go on a bourbon hunt. But you know, if I meet a few people who need help with real estate, it funds my addiction for a couple years each time I get one deal. So
for sure, I'm a novice at the bourbon game. I was thinking about creating a podcast. It was called Beats and Bourbon. But after speaking with you now, I'm like,
I'll do it with you.
That'll be cool.
Yeah,
that'll be cool. It was, the idea is basically listen to just different types of music that whoever is drinking or having a sip with us, and kind of reviewing the bourbon and listening to some old hip hop or jazz or rock or whatever it is, and just kind of breaking down the music and the bourbon at the same time. So that was, I actually have the podcast cover for it and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
We should get together on that. I know I am always wearing cowboy boots, but I also only listen to rap music. So
that's cool. That's cool. That's really cool.
So
cowboy boots are super comfortable. I have to give you that.
Yeah, I learned that a couple years ago. So, but no, it's fun. It's just like any other niche group, you know, the nerds find a way to argue about everything and troll each other. And it's sometimes the whiskey groups are like a group of teenage girls on a group chat. I mean, they'll drop lines and wars will form, and it's just all for fun.
For sure.
But yeah, I started a movement in the bourbon industry. There's so much hoarding and flipping going on where people buy bottles that they just hold on to because they know they're going to go up in value, or they'll buy bottles that they have no intention of ever drinking just to sell them. And so I started a movement to encourage people to go ahead and open those bottles up and share them with your friends and family so that we can get some of it out there. And maybe people will realize some of this bourbon that we're all freaking out to get our hands on is actually not that much better than the stuff that's sitting on the shelves.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. What introduced you to that bourbon?
Well, I used to collect wine, so I have a very addictive personality.
Okay.
So when I get interested in something, I go 50 fathoms deep pretty quick. So I know everything there is to know about woodworking. I know everything there is to know about mechanical watches. I know everything there is to know about wine. And I know everything there is to know about whiskey. And that's the progression that I went through. And I was,
hopefully it stops there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. If history serves, I'll switch to something else eventually. But no, it was a few years ago. I was at Rafane's off of the Dallas North Tollway. It was my 28th birthday, and I didn't really drink up to that point. And I tried to order a glass of wine, and the waiter shook my order off the way a catcher shakes off a pitcher's desired pitch. Like, no, you don't want to do that.
Okay.
And I felt so dumb that I didn't know what wine to order that I asked my wife for a book. And next thing you know, I'm collecting wine. But wine's not very shareable, because when you open it, you got to drink it, pretty much right then, or it's not going to taste the same. And I'm a very social person, and whiskey, I discovered, has a lot of the nuance of flavor, but you can open up a bottle and share it with 150 people over 2 years, and it doesn't really change the flavor. So since it's more shareable, I just switch my allegiance. And to be honest, I'm also very competitive, and when I found out how rare some of the whiskeys were, and that if you worked hard enough, you could get the rare whiskeys, it's a way for me to feel like I'm winning. So,
gotcha. Have you done the whiskey trail down in Kentucky?
I have.
Okay.
I have done that. Yeah,
that's good.
Lots of fun. Recommend it for anybody, even if you are kind of a novice. You learn so much. It's entertaining.
Are you into old fashions?
No, I don't drink a lot of mixed drinks.
Okay.
Although if I were going to have a mixed drink, it'd probably be an old fashioned. My wife loves them. But no, I usually am trying to break down the drink the way the distiller made it.
Okay,
right?
Keep it neat.
Yeah, so I keep it neat, and I drink a lot of cask strength whiskeys and things like that.
Gotcha.
So
good stuff. So going back to real estate, with your investment group and that business, can you tell us a little bit more about that for the consumer, and then maybe go into what the realtor their options are as well.
Sure. Yeah. So, my investment group, as the market has shifted, the acquisition prices for potential investment properties has gone up faster than the price for repair, or the price for repair and the price for acquisition has gone up faster than the after repair value has gone up, which means that the spread is not there anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I haven't really focused on finding investment properties for individuals for a while. But I did have all the infrastructure in place to flip homes, and I was helping homeowners flip homes with their own money. But too often I would find somebody that, didn't have cash. And so we kind of transitioned from, helping homeowners flip homes with their money to finding a contractor that would extend terms so that we could remodel and get paid back at close.
Okay.
But then we transitioned from that to needing some cash sometimes for the home seller. And so that's how RSHST Capital was formed. And so the benefit to a home seller is if you have equity but not cash, you need to be dealing with an agent that is approved to offer funding through RSHST Capital, because we will give you cash to live off of. We will pay your mortgage. We'll pay your utilities. We'll pay your mortgage current. We'll pay your taxes. We'll pay off liens. We will give you money to remodel your house. And it costs you nothing up front. Everything gets paid back at closing. And it's a win-win for everybody. So a typical scenario for a homeowner, let's say you've got a smaller one-story house in Frisco that's worth $300,000 in peak market condition, but let's say it needs $40,000 worth of work. Well, that house to an investor is worth about $205,000. Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to go to my website, rshstcapital.com, you can see how the numbers break down. I actually have a projected P&L for an investor, why they can only pay $205,000, because they've got hard money lenders, they've got to pay taxes, insurance, carry costs, remodel costs, so on and so forth. But through my experience, if you put that house on the market, somebody probably paid $225,000 for it. And so those are your options. You can sell for $225,000 or you can sell for $300,000. Well, through my program, you can come in and borrow that $40,000, and I'll help you get the quotes and help you with the scope of work and make sure we're not spending money on things that don't need to be done. Front the $40,000 and then sell the house for $300,000, and you get to keep that difference. And so when you run through that scenario on the website, if memory serves, I think the homeowner ends up walking away with an extra $33,000 when all is said and done. And that's after all expenses. So the fees to the program or whatever you borrow, there's 10% tacked on top, and that gets paid back at closing. It's not interest, so that amount doesn't change with time. If it takes longer to sell the house, it takes longer to sell the house. And the annual rate of return is reduced to the investors, but that's not the home seller's concern. My investors told me if they can make 10% per turn, they're happy.
Right.
So that's why we do it that way. And then we have recently, and for the last 2.5 years, I've been running a variation of this program in my own real estate business. And that's what most of my Facebook ads are about helping homeowners that have equity but not cash. But we realized that every real estate agent has customers that need access to cash for a myriad of reasons. They may have super high net worth, but most of their money's in a 401k, or they just committed to do some investment or whatever.
Right.
And when you go out and show houses, I've got a buyer I've shown 50 houses to in the last few weeks. I'd say that 90% of the homes I walked into, and they needed $10,000 worth of work for them really to be on the market for the price they were on.
That's right.
That's all wasted time. That's all wasted money. And those home sellers are going to end up losing their rear ends, because those houses are going to sell for $20,000 or $25,000 less than they otherwise would have if they had put that 10 in.
Right.
And so, that's the value that we bring for home sellers, is that we're consultants. No one loses in this scenario, right? Because the investors get the 10% funding fee, but we're typically able to negotiate a discount on your repair cost that far exceeds the cost of the funding fee. So let's say you do borrow $10,000, you're going to pay back $11,000 at closing. but that work probably would have cost you 14 if you had found contractors on your own. And so you're still saving $3,000 by doing business with us, even after the funding fee. And if you've got the cash, you don't have to use the program. We'll still let you use our contractors, right? So, the contractor's happy because they're getting paid. I'm happy because I'm getting a commission on a $300,000 house instead of $225,000. I've protected you from the evil, evil people that work for OpenDoor and We Buy Ugly Houses that want to steal your equity that you spent years gaining, right? And the buyer's agent's happy because they get paid on a higher commission and they get to do a smooth transaction on a nice house that doesn't need a lot of repairs.
Right.
And repairs negotiations are simple.
How often do you find that homes that you're having to sell need some sort of repairs? Is it 90% of the time, 50% of the time?
100. I mean, I can't think of, in my 450 plus transactions, any home that had zero work done to it from the point that I met them until closing. I can't think of one. Now, that having been said, lots of homes you go into are what we call move-in ready, but you're going to find that there's a leaky hose bib or there's a leak underneath the sink or something when you do inspections. Mm-hmm. But and those people, they don't need pay at close. But in terms of homes that need something before you should even consider putting it on the market, probably 60 to 80% need either flooring or they need paint or they need countertops. And let's keep in mind, a couple of years ago, it didn't matter what condition you brought a house to the market. There was no inventory. Your home was going to sell. But now inventory skyrocketing, buyer levels are dropping at shocking rates, and no one's tracking that, but I've been tracking it. Yep. And buyer levels are definitely going down, and that means that buyers have options and they will become pickier and pickier. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to have to give them a larger and larger discount to get them to buy your house rather than wait for the next move-in ready house, because with this level of inventory, they know one's coming and they'll wait for it. And so that's why making sure that your home is in perfect move-in ready condition when you put it on the market is crucial in this market.
So would you say that it's more beneficial for them to not fix up the house and offer the discounted rate, or do your strategy in investing in their house and fixing it up?
Well, it depends on their situation. So, let's say that I met a woman, she was terminally ill. She only had a few months worth left to live, and she knew that she was only going to be functional for a short period of time. For her, by all means, let's sell it right now as is, because that extra money, you're not going to get a chance to enjoy it. But for nearly everyone else, you're losing probably, for every dollar you don't spend, you're losing $2 to $2.50 of sales price, and you're losing $1 to $1.50 of personal profit, right? And so if your house needs $20,000, you're going to sell for $40,000 to $50,000 less than you otherwise would have.
Gotcha.
And so you just have to decide whether or not that money is worth it for you. I've seen a lot of people decide that it's not worth it because of the other pain associated with waiting those few weeks while the work gets done. Mm-hmm. But we're able to take away a lot of that pain by doing a general funding agreement and giving you cash to help you to sustain yourself during that time frame.
That's impressive.
Right.
Yeah, that's I definitely could see that need. I've been fortunate in my previous moves. My company had moved me, so right. You had the benefit of not really having that worry. But when you're definitely moving on your own and you're needing to make that move, there's very few options that you have. So for you guys to provide that solution is great. Did you see that in the marketplace somewhere else, or did y'all just come up with it based off of the void in the market?
I made it up, to be quite honest. And until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I would proudly tell everyone I was the only person in the world that offered this service. There was a company I found out of Southern California that was basically partnering with the home seller and splitting the profit.
Okay.
In this case, we let the home seller keep 100% of the profit, barring the funding fee, which is nominal when you look at the overall numbers. But a few weeks ago, a well-funded company entered the space called Curbio. And they also offer a very similar solution where they'll provide pay-at-close funding. to home sellers. The main difference between Curbio and RSHST Capital is Curbio is a general contractor, and they're just marking up their costs so that they're making enough more money that it's worth it for them to tote the note until closing. I am a funding company, and so with Curbio, you have to use them. You can't negotiate pricing, and I suspect they're kind of expensive. I haven't gotten any quotes from them. But with us, we allow you, even if you wanted to do the work on your own home, we would pay you as a contractor to work on your own house.
Right.
You pick the contractors. Now, we'll help you find contractors if you don't have any, but you don't have to do business with any one contractor. You pick them. The other difference is that because we're a funding company and we have the general funding agreement, we can also pay your mortgage current and things like that. They're only providing capital for labor and materials, if that makes sense. And so we're both trying to solve the same problem. We're just going at it a different way, right? Yeah. And so you have a remodeling company. I partner with general contractors. So you might get a call from somebody who says, hey, my insurance, I was underinsured and, I need to fix this and sell it. But I don't have the money. Yep. Well, I would come in and you as the contractor would get paid your fee through my company. And then that home seller would be made whole and be able to sell their house in optimal conditions instead of being in that negative situation. And so, I'm able to do business with whoever it makes sense.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So transitioning back to just the investment team and that company, what's I guess when did you start that and how has that grown over the last couple of years with regards to your investment group that you have?
Well, the investment group started when I was doing bank-owned property open houses, and I was meeting investors, but I realized that they weren't transacting business because they wanted to be investors, but they just weren't ready yet. And so I had to put together basically the full life cycle of a investment transaction and just be able to plug and play with whichever investor wanted that property. And as I mentioned before, I guess it was probably 2015, we lost 85 bids in a row. Wow. And I was like, okay, something's changed.
That's when people were doing they were just putting a couple $100 down and locking up the property.
Yeah.
And just, it was just that's when
and there was a couple of venture capital funds that moved into the Dallas space and were buying up a lot of property.
Gotcha.
And, they were smart. The early adopters were smart. They seemed like they were overpaying for properties at the time, but as long as they leased them for a year, the market created their equity. Nowadays, my investors that I've made money for in the past are investing in RSHST Capital, putting their funds on account with me and allowing me to invest that money in my home sellers' properties. Because we're turning the money right now roughly 3.5 times a year, and wow. So that means that for you're getting roughly a 35% rate of return, and so mine with way less risk than when we were buying the house.
What's the minimum investment that they need to have to be a part of that?
$25,000, but right now we have a waiting list. Obviously, with a 35% rate of return, there's people that want to put money in, and nothing is worse if you're managing money for people than to have dead capital, because your investors will call you every day and say, "What are you doing with my money?" So we try not to take on more than we need, but we are about to expand because we have shifted. And we're allowing other real estate agents to offer this product to their clients, because we've realized that if we're coming across 60 to 80% of homes that need work done, so are our competitors.
Okay.
And they already have that relationship to be able to explain the product. And so we are allowing other agents that once they get approved, because you have to apply, which can be done on RSHST Capital. So if you're a real estate agent out there and you want more information, it's the acronym for my real estate team, which is Randalls Sullivan Home Selling Team. So RSHST, RSHSTcapital.com. But once you're approved, you get marketing materials. In fact, we even allow you to work with our Facebook marketing company that I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And she'll duplicate our ads for your market.
Okay.
We've already split tested all the headlines and all that stuff, and so that helps any of our referral partners to generate leads that they weren't going to get. And then we give you the tools to learn how to convert those leads, and everything's all done online, so it's a real simple process for the agent. But the whole idea is, as a real estate agent, you spend a lot of time generating a lead. You go out, if they're financially distressed in any way, in that they have deferred maintenance, they don't have cash to pay for, or whatever, there's a very good chance you're going to lose that opportunity to an OpenDoor or some other similar company, a wholesaler. We buy ugly houses, whatever, and you're going to end up making 3% of $0. Right. So we provide the tools to not only save the home seller from themselves, because they're about to get raked over the coals by whoever they sell that distressed property to, but also save you from losing that opportunity. And what we found is, not only does it, drastically increase your conversion ratio on listing appointments when the home seller is in some sort of financial distress, but it also increases your conversion ratio when the home seller's not, because when you offer that service, even when they don't need it, you look like you were so far above your competition that they're interviewing that they end up hiring you even though they don't need the service. Right.
Wow.
And so it also increases your commission on that transaction because you're selling at a higher price. And because we're able to pay off liens and judgments and help do things to fix credit and whatnot, we turn a lot of sellers that would have been a tenant after closing into buyers. Because now not only do they have enough money to buy the next house that they want, but we were also able to clean up some issues that might have prevented them from getting a loan on the front end. And so if you're a real estate agent and you don't have this tool in your back pocket, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting your sellers.
Is there qualifications for realtors that they need to go through?
Yeah. So as you can imagine, we only want to partner with people that know how to screen a seller. New agents don't know how to do that, in my opinion. No offense, new agents. But hopefully this will light a fire under you to get to this level. So we have a minimum requirement that you must have sold 10 listings in your career and 5 in the last 12 months. And that's not it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll automatically be approved for the program, because there is a phone interview. But those are our basic requirements. So if you're a brand new agent, you haven't sold 10 listings yet, you're probably not a good fit for this program.
Okay. It's good to know. And with regards to the homeowners, is there homeowners that do not qualify for the program?
Yeah, but it's not for the reasons that you would think. This is not a credit-based program, so we're not basing it based on debt-to-income ratio or credit. I mean, we help people that are in bankruptcy. We help people that are pre-foreclosure. If you don't get approved, it's because there's not enough equity in your home to pay for all the things that would need to be paid for. Mm-hmm. And so we need a certain margin, right? Because the only way we get paid back is when the home sells. So the paperwork prevents you from not selling the home, and it also prevents you from keeping the house from selling by keeping the price high or something like that. So there are provisions that after 2 months of the house being marketed, if we don't have a buyer, then we need to start lowering the price until we can get a buyer. And we need to make sure as a company that there's enough equity there, that if we end up having to lower the price or there's a shift in the market, then the home can still sell, the home seller still walk away with some cash, and we get paid back. So,
is there a ceiling on the dollar amount of the cost of the house?
No. The most we've ever outlaid on one house was like $183,000 or $187,000. And I've done $2,000 deals. So there's, as long as it makes sense.
Yep.
And that's the cool thing about our program being so flexible, that we're a funding company and not a general contractor, is, I've got one gentleman that we're helping right now. He decided to keep his house, right? And which I get paid when the home sells, right? So he said, what if I want to keep it? And I said, then we'll just refinance out of it. I said, no, you're going to have to buy me out of my listing agreement.
Okay.
Right? I said, but, you're not going to have to pay, for all the fees that you would have paid if I had sold it. You're not paying a buyer agent commission.
Right.
You're not paying this, you're not paying that. So I said, that's fine.
So he just liked all the improvements that were
done.
And
yeah. And he said, I just want to keep it now. And I said, all right, it doesn't make any difference to me. And so I was talking with an agent yesterday, and I said, how many times have you gone into a listing appointment, and after you found out the client's needs, you discovered they needed to remodel and not sell? And she goes, happens all the time. Like, there was a time period where like 80% of the people I went into, they had heard how much property values had gone up. And then when I sat down and asked them what they were trying to accomplish, I was like, yeah, the thing that you want that your house doesn't have, you're going to lose more money in that and transaction costs moving.
Right.
You just need to do it here. Well, at the time, if they didn't have the cash, then they were stuck. But now, if you're an agent in this program, you can offer to them, well, if you want to stay, let's get you pre-qualified to do your refinance. And once we verify that you're able to do it, we'll do the pay at close program, and we'll get paid back at the closing of the refi.
That's right.
And then as agent, you can pre-negotiate whatever you want to charge them for your involvement. My guy's paying me my full 3% commission, but if you want to negotiate something less and be less involved, that's an opportunity to help somebody get what it is that they want. And you, instead of walking away with $0 monetized for that opportunity, you get something,
Right.
And you create a raving fan.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And like I said, you guys, it sounds like you try to make the best decision for the homeowner, and it's not always about yourself personally. It sounds like when you sit down with the homeowner, you're trying to evaluate where they're trying to get to, what their end goal is, whether it be from a financial standpoint, if they're just wanting a bigger space, if it's they're just needing to cash out, whatever their situation is. So it seems like you're more of a consultant than a typical real estate agent.
Yeah, I get a little emotional when I talk about this, but I've been in business for a long time. I'm 41. I've worked for other people. I've seen everything. I've seen the people that don't care about their customers and they'll do anything to make a buck. I've researched business trends in history, and I've seen a lot of that. And it has cost me personally and my family enormously to maintain my integrity in this industry. The way you make money in this industry is by lying to people. That's why I get so passionate.
Yeah.
Because I see little old ladies whose husbands just died and they can't live on their own. They're trying to sell their house to go live near their daughter or their son, and some snake's going to come in and just steal everything that they have.
Yeah.
And people justify it and they go, oh, well, that was her only option. That's why I created this, right? If I've told, I would rather live in a cardboard box,
right,
than make my money off of the back of somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't want to be involved unless the other person is winning first. My client wins first. And then if I can still win, then I'll win.
Right.
2, but only 2. And so I've had situations where, week before closing, we found out that the ex-husband stopped paying the mortgage, and my client was going to have a foreclosure on her record, and I've waived 100% of my commission to get the deal done. I'll do whatever it takes to take care of my clients. But on the flip side, when somebody accuses me of lacking integrity,
yeah,
I get pretty upset pretty quick.
That's understandable.
Yeah. So.
Well, hey, I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but it has definitely been an insightful interview, passionate interview, and I think a lot of people in the area and throughout the United States will find your programs invaluable. We'll post it on the website and on all of our social media channels. Is there anything else that you would want to communicate to our listeners?
No, I mean, I would be derelict in my duties if I didn't state that if you are a home seller and you have a home to sell, I would like the opportunity to interview for the job. You know, I jokingly tell people it's not show friends, it's show business. I don't want you to hire me because you liked me. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I want you to hire me because you think I'm the best solution to your problem. And you're not going to find that out unless we sit down and talk. And I'd also like to say that if you're a real estate agent and you're hearing this program, it would be wise for you to go to RSHST Capital and just take a look at it. And if when you see it, it doesn't blow your mind and you don't think, oh my God, my life will not be the same if I don't sign up for this program, then don't fill out the form because I don't want you in the program. Make no mistake about it. The reason why the National Association of Realtors was formed when it was is because people that work in our industry take advantage of the consuming public by taking their equity, period.
Yep.
This program is the solution to that. It's never been prolific. Nothing like this this will shift the real estate industry. And I'm not saying that my company is going to be the one that shifts. I hope that it is. But the reality is that it won't be long before other companies enter this space and consumers will know for the first time in U.S. history that if you have equity, you have money to fix problems. And so you have to ask yourself, and if you're in this real estate industry, I don't mean to overstate the point, but this shift is coming. Mm-hmm. And, Zillow has their broker's license now, and there's all these discount brokers and so on and so forth out there. How are you distinguishing yourself? Ask yourself, what are you doing that Zillow's high volume agent can't do with their technology? And this platform will give you that competitive edge. And it is going to be a shift in the industry, and you can either get on board or you're going to get run over.
Right. Well, that's a good place to end it. Hey, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I had fun.
Yeah, very nice to meet you.
Yeah.